Welcome to an all-new edition of Fanlight Zone Presents. My name is Ken M. You know me as the host of the ODPH podcast. I'm also the editor-chief here at FLZ. And folks, if you have been following Fanlight Zone Presents since its inception, you know that we kicked off events talking with Mark Guggenheim about a fantastic series that was coming to COMIXOLOGY Originals. And if you have not been following, I'm going to just put it out there, comics best kept secret, the Whisper War and the Shattered Realm, you need to get familiar because the first arc just wrapped up. There's a lot to process, and we're very fortunate enough to have the artist of that book on the line, who you know his work from Savage Swords, Conan, Ram God, Immortal Red Sonja, Berserker, and like I said, your new favorite series after this podcast comes out, The Whisper War. Please give a warm welcome to Sedat Oezgen. Sedat, what is going on?
Hey man, how you doing? Thank you for having me. Thank you, and thank you for that great introduction. I mean, I don't want to sound cocky, but I agree with your statement about the best kept secret of 2026. Definitely.
Oh, it is. It is. And thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been one series that I've been fortunate enough to review since day one. And I am not kidding when I say this. The surprises that happen in this story are going to absolutely rock readers if they haven't checked it out already. And with issue 5 just wrapping up, there's a lot that goes on with this. But first, before we get there, how did this whole project come to be to you?
You know, Mark and I, we were kind of like working on a project together where he was not the writer. He was just involved in a kind of like producer type of capacity. And, somebody else was writing it. And the person was not a comic book writer. And, things got a little bit, difficult. And we had a little bit of like tensions because he obviously, when someone's not from the field, from the medium, things can be difficult for them. And in the process of working on the book, Mark saw how enthusiastic I was, how reliable I was with everything that I was doing. And I think it was in New York at New York Comic Con 2022 that he came to me and he said, dude, if you ever want to work on something with me, let me know, because I've seen how you work and I know you can come up with cool stuff. And I was like, okay, yes sir. Because Mark is like, I mean, this guy is just an amazing writer, and somebody of his caliber asking me to work with him was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And I know he's a big sci-fi guy just like me. And I think it was like around mid 2023 or so that I was like, okay, you know what? He said it. Now I'm gonna reach out. And I reached out and I said, Mark, do you have something that you want to work on? And he gave me some ideas, and I was like, yeah, that's nice, but do you think we could turn that into a sci-fi book? And it- that and that happened like 2 or 3 times, and he was like, you know what, I think I should write a sci-fi book for you, for us, and I think that's better than turning something into a sci-fi book. And then that was during the writer's strike back in 2023, and he told me, he said the script is going to be finished for New York Comic Con 2023. And I arrived at Newark airport one day ahead of New York Comic Con, and I was standing in a giant line in a queue because there were so many people waiting to be processed and everything.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I got the email from Mark with the script, and I was reading the script, and well, everyone in the airport was like really angry because everything took forever. I was like smiling like a fool because it was, I was like, oh my god. And then when I came to the end of the first issue, I was like, holy moly, because I did not expect the things to happen that happened at the end of the first book. And yeah, that's how we started working on this.
That's an amazing start. And trust, when you read issue number 1, that last page is going to be a showstopper without question. It stopped me in my tracks when I was doing the review. I was like, wait, what just happened? And I had to go back and reread it, very happily. But I was like that's how good the hooks are in this. And you're not going to see those twists coming. That is something
Yeah,
that is just very hard to find in any good mystery story. But you both nailed it with this, and especially
thank
to
you.
the rest of the team there too. So I know my partner in crime, Rich, is not here, but he is infamous for his elevator pitches. So I have to do him justice. If anybody is not familiar with the Whisper War yet, what is the
Okay.
elevator pitch of the story?
Okay, imagine being a retired police officer, military guy who does not want to have to do anything with his former profession, and you basically isolate yourself from everything, and then you're being called back into service, and it's mandatory service, and all of a sudden, you have to investigate a murder case, and then while trying to find a solution for this or the answer of this murder case, you are being hit with answers that not only change the way you see the whole world around you, but also how you see yourself. And that's how you start questioning who you are and why you are the way you are. That's probably as much as I can say about that.
No, completely fair and 100% true with this story. And there's so much more to it. Like I say, we don't want to spoil anything, even though issue
Yeah,
5 is out right now. But when you read the whole thing, you will understand why we're being very secret of it. Because it's like ruining a great surprise of a movie. You don't want to go in and know what happens. You want to be caught off guard and when those moments hit, because there's a lot. It's not just
yeah.
issue 1. It is a lot spread out across the whole spectrum of the story.
See,
So
it's a little bit like with Game of Thrones. You can tell people the outlines of the story, but once you get too deep into it, that's actually one of the reasons why I wasn't able to post as much art as I would have liked to from each issue, because you know certain issues are basically just spoiler minefields,
mhm.
and especially issue 4 was like, okay, I basically can't post anything from this because it's going to like be really spoilery, and that's why I had to be very careful there.
I don't blame you. Which I mean, issue 4 is when the stuff really hits the fan, in my opinion, and that I it's hard for me to pick out a favorite issue with it because
Okay.
there's so much in each one, and every 5 you're going to find a moment, and it really sells the series for what it is. And going in with this too, Mark previously stated when he was here that this was a comic that was specifically written for you. So that being said, Sadat, what is it about Mark's writing style that appeals to you as an artist?
See, what I really like about Mark's work is that first of all, he's a very empathetic person, and he creates these characters that you can empathize with. For example, it's kind of funny, like when the Whisper War was finished, and I had done all my duties, and I went back and reread some of the stuff. I kind of like realized how much I can identify and empathize with Axel, the main character in the book,
Mm,
and obviously, like, I love drawing science fiction, but I wanted to make sure that the whole thing is as far away as possible from the typical tropes that we know from most sci-fi books. I wanted to make sure that it doesn't look too much like Blade Runner, or maybe Star Wars or something like that. And Mark's writing, I gotta say, like the first 5 pages from the very first issue, if you look at them, the way you see them on paper is the way I imagined imagined them in at that airport in New York. And Mark basically just with his writing created a movie in my head.
mm.
So, and Mark is to be honest with you, he's very economic. Like with his writing, he doesn't write these really long descriptions and everything. Especially, I think when he has trust in an artist
Hmm.
and he knows their abilities and everything, he's like, okay, I just have to like write this and this is happening, and I don't have to like describe the paper, the wallpaper or something like that in order for the guy to get an idea of what this world looks like. And I think creativity begets creativity. So basically, it's like he infected me with ideas, and then once again I once I did my art or the layouts or some concept stuff, that again infected him with new ideas, and this way we were able to like feed off of each other, and it made the whole thing such an interesting exchange of like almost like playing tennis. The
Hmm.
the ball was on the court the whole time, and he would send the ball over to me and I would send it to him again. And this way, I think that's why the book looks the way it does, because Mark put a lot of you know a lot of great ideas into the script. I did my best with the art, and when Carlos, our colorist,
Yep.
who he's not just a colorist, he's I would say he was like my co-illustrator, because he pushed the book up, like at least 2 levels or 3 levels with his coloring, because you usually don't see that type of coloring in comics.
Hmm.
And he put a lot of effort into everything, and I think this is why the book looks the way it does. It's because the whole team loved working on this thing. And if something's a labor of love, then you will definitely get a great product by the end.
Oh, I fully agree with that. And I love the analogy about the tennis ball, because it did seem like it was a tremendous amount of synergy between you, Mark, and Carlos Cabrera, your colors there too, because
Yeah.
the visuals of this is what's one of the key factors of why this story is so good. And when you are doing world building,
Yeah.
that is always a challenge, let alone a world building situation like the Shattered Realm. So when you're constructing this world and you're working with Carlos, what would you say is you drew the most influence from, or was this kind of just like you had the concept in your head and you just ran with it?
Well, I think none of us is free from influences and inspirations and everything. Like, for example, I drew a lot of inspiration from brutalist architecture, where
Mm,
the buildings are like really geometric, and they are cold and gigantic. And then there's this thing, it's gonna sound a little bit weird, but I have this very, very negative view of the future, where we're heading into like a totalitarian kind of like future, where
mm,
the individual is almost crushed by its environments, and they get lost in this gigantic world. And I wanted to create that feeling, because by the end of the day, if you look at the story, it's a story about a guy who's being thrown into total madness and chaos, and he doesn't know what's going on. And I can identify with that, because the more often you go outside and you see our world, it's not the same world as it was yesterday, and every day gets crazier. And for me, it was important to put a lot of that into the book. And then obviously, I'm a very big fan of guys like Stanley Kubrick,
mm,
Ridley Scott, Denis Villeneuve, and also the comic book artist from France, the late Mobius.
mm.
And Mobius is a great, big influence on my work. But then I didn't want to go in a artistic direction that looks like his. And I would say I was also very, very much influenced by fantasy, ironically medieval fantasy, and a lot of like medieval armor and stuff like that. And I mixed that with like futuristic militaristic kind of like looking armory and stuff like that. and also try to like use stuff from cultures that, like, if you look around and see people from Japan, how they dress and everything, and mix that up with a little bit of sci-fi, and then there you have the book.
Yeah, but you can definitely tell that influence, but it's so unique in its own too, and you can definitely tell that medieval influence in issue 5. And I'm not
Yeah.
going to spoil anything, but there's a moment that you're like, okay, I see this, but it works perfectly, like the juggling of all these other themes, because nothing seems like it's overshadowed. If
Yeah.
anything, this feels, and this is saying a lot too, because there is, the mystery factor, the sci-fi element. There's so much going on, but it does feel like a sci-fi story at its core.
Yeah.
What is it about that genre? Because you're no stranger to that field. What is it about that genre that really, compels you as an artist, like that really excites you about it?
Well, I think the two greatest genres, in my personal point of view, are sci-fi and fantasy, because they are without boundaries. You can
Mm.
do anything and everything you want to do, and you can create your own world. Like, for example, if somebody told me, hey, you got to make a comic about, I don't know, people in the 1850s, I wouldn't, I would know how to draw it, but
Mm.
it's like a lot of tiring research and everything, and that's like, uh, that's the stuff that I don't like to do. And with this stuff, I was able to create the stuff while I was drawing it, and then look for cool stuff, and then again, be inspired by stuff like Game of Thrones, for example. I love the books and the TV show, and I wanted to take these inspirations from there and put it into something completely different, and by that, just being able to like create a completely new world, because you know a lot of the modern sci-fi stuff that you see always has guys running around in Iron Man like suits,
Mhm.
and the helmet always kind of like reminds you of the first Iron Man movie, which was great for Iron Man.
Sure.
But we watched Iron Man, we've seen Iron Man. I don't want to see 50 bad copies of Iron Man anymore. Show me something new.
Yeah.
And I and you know and ironically, it's like this. I wanted to draw a real sci-fi book for probably 20 years, and unfortunately,
Wow.
I'm not a good writer. I don't know how to like really like write stories and everything. I
Mhm.
can come up with cool concepts, but not do the actual writing. And with someone like Mark, it was just easy. It was absolutely everything. The whole book drew itself. I just had to hold the pen, and the rest just happened on its own, because it was so much fun, so much love to do this. And every panel that I drew was full of joy. I honestly, it's been like 6 months now where I haven't drawn these characters, and I'm so sad, and I miss them. And I miss working with Mark and Carlos, because it was so much fun to do this stuff. And it makes you appreciate the experience you had with these people even more.
Oh man. Well, it pours out on the pages. I'll say that as somebody that's read this, you can definitely tell everybody there was having fun with this.
Yeah.
Even as the subject matter was a little dark at times, which going into the story we know why, but you can tell that there was just something about it that it felt larger than life. Like there was just something about reading it that it just wasn't your average, you know, sci-fi mystery. And I have to be really careful with my words because I don't want to spoil anything. But but it was something that you could definitely tell was not out of the ordinary, or it was, something that wasn't ordinary. It was something that just really stands out on its own and has just a unique vibe to it, like every page, like going from 1 to 5.
Yeah, and
So
that's
okay.
the thing about a great writer, and I gotta say it once more. Mark is just a unique guy. He comes up with stuff that, like I said, when I read the first issue, I was like, okay, who's this? Who's this? Whose body is this, or the
Mhm.
remains of the body is this? you know, we have no clues. Why is this going to be such a big reveal? And then when we got the reveal, I was like, oh my god, I absolutely didn't expect that. And that shows you, like, Mark is like, he holds your hand
Hmm.
and kidnaps you, but doesn't tell you that he's kidnapping you onto a crazy journey. And that's what he does in his writing. You're always like, okay, where is this heading? Where is this heading? And then you're like, oh no.
I fully agree. After reading issues 1 and 2 separately, it was like the first time it's like, oh, you got me. And then the second time with the ending, it was like, oh, you got me again. And I'm sitting there going like, and then the third one, which is great too. But I'm sitting there just like, I'm waiting, like, okay, now I'm looking for the hook. Now I'm looking for it. But like you alluded to, that's just a part of the writing process and how you all staged it up too, because
Yeah,
nothing felt tipped off.
yeah,
Like as a reader, the experience was we're going, and then the brakes hit out of nowhere, and it's like, wait, what just happened? And to have that experience in a comic, I mean, that's just, it's such a difficult thing to pull off, but yet you all did it flawlessly, like for
thank
the
you.
entire run, and just even going right to issue 5. And there's so many like moments in this, and I don't want to spoil anything, but let me ask you this. Is there a moment in the story thus far that was the most challenging for you as an artist to bring out?
Yeah, definitely. It's actually funny. It was in the middle of the series, issue number 3, because there's a double spread page where we have this giant war scene. This is as much as I can say. And originally, that was written as 2 separate pages, and I just couldn't figure out how to draw it. I had no idea. I texted Mark and I said, dude, I need your help. And we started talking, and he was like, hey, calm down, it's going to be okay, you're going to manage this, you did everything very well so far, you're going to figure this out as well. And while he was pep talking me, I was like, oh, dude, I have an idea. And he was like, okay, tell me. And I told him the idea, and he was like, oh, that's nice, go with that. And I think that was the only time where I actually, like, really felt like a quote unquote bump in the road. Other than
Mhm.
that, the whole thing drew itself. It was like, okay, easy business.
Wow. I mean, that's just impressive because like there's a lot of complex scenes throughout this story.
Yeah.
I think I know which one you're talking to about issue 3, but I'm like I say,
Yeah.
no spoiler. Everybody needs to go out and buy this. So that said, though, to see that it just kind of flowed that easy, that is amazing because the detail that's in the artwork on this series is just it's phenomenal, to put it mildly.
Okay.
Like,
Want to hear something crazy? Usually a comic book page is, an original comic page is this big. I drew
mhm.
it this big. Like, I
Holy
drew, I
smoke.
drew. Yeah, I did it on 16 by 22, and that, believe it or not, but I did almost every page like within a day or a day and a half, and I was just working like a madman. And Mark was like, "You are crazy!" Like, when he saw the first few pages, he was like, "Why are you doing this to yourself?" And I said, "Dude," I said, I want to make sure that everything, everything in this book works,
Mhm,
and if this book fails, I want to make sure that it's not because of the art. You know, let there be a million other reasons why it's failing. I know it's not because of the story, because Mark is a great writer, so I wasn't worried about that. So all of the weight was on my shoulders in that regard, because when you have such a great story in front of you,
mhm,
on the one hand, it inspires you to work, and match the quality of the art. But on the other hand, it's like, okay, if you screw this up, everyone's going to say, oh, the art sucks. The story is great, but the art sucks. And I wanted to make sure that that doesn't happen. And I think I did my best. And then, when Carlos stepped in and did his magic, it was like, almost as if the universe wanted this to come together, and I think we all did very well, and we did our best, and yeah.
No, I mean, it shows. It shows in the work. Like,
Thank you.
everything just clicked together, and just I'm still just processing you working on that size of a page. Like, that's just I I mean, my mind is like blown about this, but the proof is in the images. Like I say, when readers pick this up, and they're reading it right now in the digital form. Hopefully, we get this to a physical copy. It's really just astounding the amount of detail that's in this, and it really takes you some places, and especially with all the characters involved too. Because I mean,
Yeah.
one thing with world building, it's never easy, especially with the amount of characters involved in this. That said, is there one character in particular that you really loved working on, and why?
I mean, I really loved drawing Axel.
Mhm.
He was so much fun to draw. But other than that, I would say Jasper was a lot of fun to draw. The police robot in the very first issue that we see, and he was kind of like, Mark uh, wanted me to draw like a human-looking robot, almost like David from Prometheus or something like that. And I came up with this idea. I said, Mark, what do you think about all the robots actually looking like machines, and there is no likeness to humans? And then I explained to him, I said, for example, Jasper has this giant orb as a face, and when you talk to him, you can only see your own reflection. And that was based on an experience that I made when I came to the United States for the first time. When I went there for a convention, I was, as you can see, this book has a lot of connections to customs, because I was singled out, and the police officers, they started asking me questions, and for some reason they were not okay with my answers. And then I talked to this like really big muscular police officer, and he was wearing sunglasses, and I made a joke to break the ice, but he didn't react very positively. He was like, and I couldn't see his eyes. I could only see my own reflection in his glasses, and I was like, oh my god. And I remembered that, and I wanted to incorporate that into the comic when we have certain conversation situations where Axel and Siva are talking to Jasper. You can just see their reflections on the orb and everything, and I wanted to like create this kind of sense of like that's probably what it's like when you're talking to a machine. I mean, we're closing in on that experience, because slowly but surely there are now real robots in real life, and I think it's going to be super weird for us to look into like the face of such a robot, and to know that the eyes are recording us, or maybe they're measuring our I don't know, blood temperature or something like
Mhm.
that with their scanners and everything. And I find the idea very creepy, and I wanted to have that in the book.
No, I mean, and that's wow. I mean, that's a heck of a story behind it. But you're right. I mean, just with how technology is advancing now in this day and age, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
And to see like how you incorporate. I mean, it's amazing to see in the story. But yeah, no, I agree. That's just a wild thing that we're going to be experiencing. Holy smokes! Well, it's just like I say, with just how it is. Like I still believe like it's just with how unfortunately AI is evolving and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
of course. But as they say, funny thing is, once I created that character, the first robot from OpenAI came out, and I saw that thing, and I sent it to Mark, and I said, "Dude, I was ahead of my time." You
Yeah.
know? So it's the what you might call it, life imitating art kind of
Yeah.
like situation. So yeah.
We got to throw a couple fun questions at you before we get out of here, because obviously there's a lot going on with the story. And if you have worked on quite a few characters, if you could cross over forget licensing, forget, the legal ramifications, whatever. If you could cross over one character into the Shattered Realm, who would you bring in and why?
That's interesting. Well, maybe RoboCop, just because it would be funny.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah, because there. I mean, he would look interesting in that kind of a setting, but I never really thought about that. It's interesting. Maybe, yeah, and maybe Deckard from Blade Runner. I mean, he would fit into
Ooh, okay.
that. Yeah, he would fit into that universe very well, I think. And I think yeah, and maybe Batman would have fun because he would jump from one giant skyscraper to the next one. Yeah, that would be fun for him.
Oh, it'd be fun for you. I mean, I could just imagine the visuals of him just fully cowl out and going over. Like, there's a lot, and plus him bumping into Axel. That would be a really fun interaction, I think.
Yeah, that would be interesting, right?
Yeah. Well, you have to think. I mean, we've only scratched the surface of the Shattered Realm,
Yeah.
and with that, like I say, no spoilers whatsoever. But were we thinking for the future of this possibly?
Well, I mean, obviously, there are always ideas for the future. And Mark and I, we talked about it already, but there's nothing, nothing, like set in stone or anything. I think by the end of the day, once again, it depends on the numbers. If enough people read this and enough people want to see a follow-up story and everything, that would definitely be something to like motivate the powers to like come up with a second arc, or maybe a third arc, or maybe a spin-off. I think there are infinite possibilities here. And yeah, that's like the only thing that's hindering us right now is like knowing whether people want to see more or not.
Well, I think obviously if they pick up any issue of this, primarily number one will hook you. Like, there's no way you can read number one, walk away from that ending and go, okay, and not be like, I need to read number two. I'm going to say that right now. There's absolutely no way, like, unless you don't have a pulse and you are a robot, then okay,
Yeah,
maybe there's some way you do it. But no, there's absolutely no way they can just read number one and just say, like, I'm out. Like, this
yeah.
story has got so much room to go. It's going to become somebody's favorite sci-fi story. But let me end this with asking you this. What is your favorite sci-fi story of all time?
That's a good question. I think there are several. The Foundation. I really love The Foundation from by Isaac Asimov.
Okay.
Uh, it's not a comic, but it's I think they turned it into like a TV show, but the TV show is not really like the book. I really like that. Then there's a German sci-fi writer. His name is Andreas Eschbach, and he did two really cool books. One is called Quest, and the other one is called The Hair Carpet Weavers. Amazing book. That book's available in English. I would recommend it. It's like a bunch of short stories that come together and then turn into like one. Really, really nice. And Alien, obviously, and I grew up with like Star Wars, and Blade Runner is awesome. I really loved what Denis Villeneuve did with the Dune movies. Amazing stuff. And then there are also like movies, for example, like Arrival, that I really liked. The sci-fi on that is not too much, but it's still very cool. And believe it or not, but I really liked Starship Troopers as well.
Really?
Yeah, dude. If somebody tells me they don't like it, it's hard for me to be friends with them, because it is so cheesy, and it's obviously like meant as a satire and everything. And a really great movie from, what was it, like the early 90s, late 80s.
No, I think Starship Troopers was the late 90s, early 2000s. Like, it was right in that CW era,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
everything going on there. Yeah, that's an experience. I mean, it's great for its time, I think, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah. No, I mean, I believe it or not, once in a while, I'm actually watching it again, and it still holds up. Like in terms of like the satire is obviously like on the nose, but it's so much fun, and I constantly have to like laugh my ass off because it's so stupid. And then again, another sci-fi movie, which actually is not a sci-fi movie, but was intended to be a sci-fi movie, is Conan the Barbarian. You know, the
yes.
the original pitch. I don't know if you knew this, but it was supposed to take place in a post-apocalyptic world. That's how Oliver Stone had written the original script. And then once Millers came onto the movie, he, obviously turned it into a high fantasy. But you could see like that Millers took some inspiration from what Oliver Stone had intended in the original script, and he really did a really great job on like world building. I think obviously there are some effects that don't hold up, but most of the movie is like fantastic. It's a great movie.
Yeah, it definitely is. I remember hearing that was supposed to be pitched as a sci-fi. I'd never heard the backstory of it though. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, that was the original idea, but Conan was supposed to be some kind of like a road warrior and fight against mutants who were kind of like were born after a atomic or nuclear holocaust. And yeah, that's like the original idea behind the first movie.
That's absolutely wild. But I
Yeah.
mean, I can only just imagine how that would go with Conan, but that would be something to watch.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to hold a candle though to what you and the team have done with the
Thank
With for
you.
War. I cannot
Thank
sing
you.
the praises of this enough. This, like I say, this right now is my sleeper hit of 2026, because if
Thank you.
you are going in thinking it's just a regular sci-fi story, you are going to be happily mistaken, because there is just so many elements going on that it really kind of transcends that comic reading experience and it turns into something else. Sedat, I can't thank you enough for taking the time out to talk to me today. We definitely have to recap down the road about this.
Thank you again, and thank you for having me. And it was really great to be here, and I definitely hope that we will talk in the future again, and hopefully we will meet at some convention at some time and have a drink together.
Hey, New York Comic Con, if you are going, we will be there.
I am going to be there. Come
All right.
over, and if I know for sure that you guys come over, I'll have something for you ready.
Yes, Rich and I will definitely be in attendance for that. So yeah, so mark the
Okay.
tape on that. So we'll definitely track you
Okay.
down.
Send me a message, and we'll figure something out. All right.
Absolutely appreciate that. And
Thank
folks,
you.
like what said, one more time, the link will be in the liner notes, so you can go right to Amazon and go get this on Comixology. Go get it. Hit us up on the social media at Fanlight Zone. Let us know what you think about it. I'll sit here. I can rave about it. I can talk about it. And trust me, I want everybody talking about it, because it's one of the best series out this year. So that being said, thank you again for checking out another edition of Fanlight Zone Presents. We'll see you next time.